The Peter Boyle Show, 630 KHOW. Denver's talk station.
Head out on the highway 3 minutes after the hour of 8:03, Monday, 6th morning of December. Our website is KHOW.com. Since, I guess, Jump Street for the last 3.5, 4 years, we've been talking about what people call the birther. I call it the truther or the proofer movement. And now comes Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin from Greeley, Colorado, a physician, a distinguished flight surgeon who on the 14th of December walks into a courtroom in Fort Meade, Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, please say good morning and welcome to 630 KHW, whose attorney, Neal Puckett, is our guest. Good morning, sir, and thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Peter. Happy to be here. How are you today?
Terrific. Your background, law school, those kinds of things, and then how you got onto the story.
Sure. Went to law school in Indiana University, graduated in '84. I was in the Marine Corps at the time as an intelligence officer. Career Marine Corps officer, former military judge. I have 2 law degrees, actually 4 degrees altogether. I've been practicing military law for 26 and a half years now. Got on the case. Basically met Lieutenant Colonel Lakin at a political fundraiser, and he came to see me the next Monday and said, "Geez, I'd like to hire you to represent me."
I don't get any of this. I mean, I was saying in the last hour, it's gotten down to this, and we have gotten a friendship with Greg Lakin, Terry Lakin's brother, who's also a physician.
Yes. And
I said to him, I said, here it is. We're to believe in the passion of Barack Obama. To stop a man from having his life destroyed, his military career destroyed, his children's lives destroyed, his retirement pay destroyed, and send him to the penitentiary for 5 years. Ask myself, Peter, would you not waive your birth certificate, show your birth certificate to these people to avoid the destruction of this man's life?
And response?
Well, mine is immediately. I mean, I know it's someplace at my house. I'd go and find it.
Sure.
Or I'd go to Pennsylvania and get it. I'd do something to stop this very decent man from having his life destroyed.
Right.
Why would my compassionate, transparent president not do this to save this man's life?
Well, I'm not even sure Lieutenant Colonel Lakin's case is on his radar. I'm not. I
got $20. I got more than $20. It says it is.
Well, it may be, but it clearly hasn't produced a response. I don't know what to say. I mean, I can't speak for.
What would you do? I mean, legitimate question. What would you do, Neal? All you had to do was show him your law license or show him your birth certificate, and you can stop this man from going to prison.
Well, I think the more relevant question to Lieutenant Colonel Lakin's case is why did no one in his chain of command address the issue? I think what's getting lost in all this is up until the point that Terry made an issue of this, he had asked everyone in his chain of command. He had sent up letters and petitions and grievances, and no one bothered, and he was rebuffed at all levels. No one bothered to sit him down and explain anything to him. And I think we should call to task Army leadership.
Of course,
for that.
Well, they're cowards. I mean, I don't mean that in the sense of they're very brave men and women, but in terms of their careers. So I know that Lakin tried many times without success through the chains of command to seek an answer to his nagging question: is Barack Obama legal?
Right. And so it's important to remember that he didn't just one day decide to disobey his orders.
Of course not.
Right.
I mean, so now what? What do you think happens? I mean, I've read pieces that you believe, and this is awful, but you believe he's going to be convicted.
Well, I think I don't want folks to take that out of context. Before I came on the case, there was litigation, pretrial litigation by his former defense team, seeking certain witnesses, seeking disclosure of certain documents, which was denied to him by the court. And since those things were denied to him by the court, the defense that he had intended to raise is no longer available to him, and that would have been the only defense he could have raised. And so, if you just reason from that, if that was his only defense and his defense is now no longer available to him, the only option left is he's likely to be convicted. So it's not that he's throwing in the towel. It's not that he's pleading guilty.
No.
He's pleading not guilty. But if you're required to go to battle unarmed, bad things can happen.
Well, the Holder Justice Department will take a terrorist and put the terrorist on trial in a civilian court.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And Lakin's not allowed any of these things.
Well, now he's allowed to stay in court. It's just
of course,
it's a military court.
It's blunted.
Right. And I also don't want people to get the misimpression. I think the likely outcome here is that he's going to be exposed to a lot less penalty. You mentioned 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's
his brother just said that.
Right. That's in the realm of possibility. But we believe that we've got a strong enough case to whittle that down to, if he's convicted, a maximum of 1 year in jail and possibly a dismissal from the service. Which, by the way, so your listeners know, is the officer equivalent of a dishonorable discharge.
Yeah, he gets a DH.
Right.
And then what happens to his medical license?
Well, that's a good question. I don't have. I'm not a doctor, and other doctors could address that. But the potential here is that the conviction that he gets would be considered a felony conviction.
Sure.
I'm not sure how his professional licensure addresses felony convictions.
And how many years does he be in?
18 years.
That goes out the window.
That goes out the window. No pension. You earn a pension in the military if you've done 20 years of service, and he'll be just short of that.
So he gets none of those things.
And he doesn't get his promotion to colonel, which he had already earned, full colonel. Right. So, the shame here is that the Army is going to deprive itself of a highly qualified physician who can save lives in combat. And that's those. There are others who can do that, but you need every one. I mean, the guy who dies because a physician wasn't available is going to
So, said and done.
Right.
What does this say?
What is there to say?
Yeah.
Well, I think his supporters need to realize that he's taken a pretty courageous stand here, and they need to think more in terms of. I mean, given the almost inevitability of the outcome here of his court-martial, they need to think about, well, what happens after that? Do we forget about Terry Lakin? Do we stop supporting him? Do we not help his family? Like, for instance, if he's going to be deprived of a pension, which he would have otherwise earned, and if he loses his medical license, what's he going to do for a living? And so if people want to support him, I would think that they would want to personally support him in that way, perhaps financially.
Won't they meaning the military, the Obama administration, the DOD, they're going to create a political prisoner?
Well, I think you could say that. I think that's a valid position. And it's interesting. People don't want to make this out to be a political thing. They want to say that this is a constitutional issue, and I believe it is a constitutional issue. And at least that's the way Terry thinks about it. And he believes there are significant questions which are going to continue to go unanswered about his concerns.
So.
About the president's legitimacy.
Yeah,
I think everybody ought to realize that if Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin has done everything he can do, if you want to do more, what can you do? What if you look at what Terry's done? What can you do to support that position?
And
well, I don't know. I'm not schooled enough to know outside the military justice arena what folks can do, but I try to explain to people, and they don't seem to want to follow me on this, that Terry did the best he could, but if there's going to be a solution to the problem, it's got to be a political one. It's got to be one that's raised through our political process, and you got to get the attention of legislators, congressmen, senators, to take up whatever cause you want taken up, and short of that, there's really not much the individual can do.
What I'm puzzled at, and tons of stuff I'm puzzled at, is there's really a media blackout on this.
There is.
And the other fellows that I remember, and I'm sure you do, Ramos and Campion, the border patrolmen, and they became political prisoners in the Bush administration, and the drumbeat got louder and louder and louder, and in those final, I think, 48 hours of the Bush presidency, he didn't pardon them, but he got them out of jail.
Right.
What will happen if Lakin goes? I mean, do you expect Brian Williams to cover this story?
No. Well, they'll only the mainstream media will only cover it by way of ridicule, by way of laughter.
Yeah, exactly. Anderson Cooper and the rest of those dopes.
Right. So I don't know what the answer is. Here's the thing that I think folks need to understand, and that is that sadly, Lieutenant Colonel Lakin and I both, have come to understand that the military justice system, the Uniform Code of Military Justice and the disciplinary system in the military, has been unable to address his questions, has been unable to answer his questions. He sought answers in this system, and they just simply aren't there. So I hope folks don't think that we as the defense team are throwing in the towel or surrendering or doing anything like that. We're not. But the law is the law, and we're all bound to follow the law. And these outcomes that I'm predicting here are simply, well, first of all, they're just my predictions.